Welcome to Flip Lesson 30 for the 6th grade. Today we're going to take on an idea that is, once again, review, but can often be confused with factors. Today we're going to look at the least common multiple, all right, or our LCM, least common multiple. Now the first thing we got to realize is that the LCM is not the same as the GCF. This is not the greatest common factor. Factors, if we remember, are when we take a number and then we start breaking it down and figuring out what two factors come together to equal that number. As we look at our new idea, the LCM, when we're looking at multiples, now we're talking about the numbers that when a number is multiplied, that's what it equals. For example, if that sounded confusing, we can talk about the multiples of 2. The multiples of 2 are going to first of all start with 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Then 6. Then 8. Then 10. 12. 14. 16. And we can continue going on in that way. Then we can also look at the fact that our 8. What are the multiples of 8? It would be 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, and so on, continuing in that way. And so as we look at these, now we're going to say, okay, if I'm looking at 2 and 8, what is the least common multiple? And so I'm going to look at my multiples and I'm going to say, okay, where do I match? I match here and here, and then a little bit later I match here and here. And if we were to continue on, we'd find out that a lot of these numbers match in the end. But it's asking for the least common multiple, which would be, of course, the 8 in this case. The 8 is the least common multiple between 2 and 8. All right. Let's try another one together. We look at 9 and 12. Multiples of 9 would be 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, and 63. We'll see if that gets us far enough. 12 would be 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, and after we've made our initial list, we can say, okay, do we have common multiples that are popping out at us? And you would say, okay, 36 is our first common multiple, and so 36 in the end would be our least common multiple. If we were to continue on, we don't see any matching here, but if we were to continue on, we'd find out that there are more than just this first one that we've seen so far. So we have the idea of least common multiple, all right? And that idea, least common multiple, is going to be important, especially as we start getting into adding fractions with different denominators so that we can have that, find a common denominator. And that's what we're going to use, the least common multiple. The next thing we're looking at is the idea of reciprocals. And as we look at the idea of reciprocals, we can see that we want to move from one fraction. I'm going to rewrite this because my computer is being funny. We want to know 3/4 times what is going to equal 1. So we want to understand what are we going to multiply by right here to get an answer of 1. And that's where the idea of reciprocal comes in. In a reciprocal, we're going to take our fraction 3/4 and we're going to flip it over. And so 4/3 is the reciprocal of 3/4. And if we were to throw in our step and actually multiply this, that'd be 3 times 4, which gives us 12, and 4 times 3, which gives us 12. And of course we could reduce that to be 1. And so as we look at this, reciprocals help us understand the idea of 1. And so 3/4 times 4/3 equals 1. And so 3/4 and 4/3 are reciprocals. Another example we see is 8/4. What would be 8/4? That would be reciprocal, would then be the opposite. We flip it. 4/8. And that would give us 32/32. And an answer of still 1. And so 8/4 would be, reciprocal would be 4/8. And so we have this simple idea, which is going to become ever more important as we start multiplying fractions and learning how to divide them also. So our LCM is going to help us add and subtract. Our reciprocal is going to be important, especially when we get into dividing fractions. And so we have these ideas. Then, here are the sample problems. And my computer is being funny, so I'll rewrite them for you real quick. I want you to solve for the reciprocals of these two problems. All right. And so we have those ideas. Remember, as you work with reciprocals, that reciprocals stay as improper fractions. They are not turned into mixed numbers. All right, that's the end of lesson 30.